In this video, I will give an in-depth guide to the many aspects of Ranger. This includes a deep dive into each perk and skill, which bows are the best for each mode, which perks and skills are the best for each mode, some tips for Ranger, the basic gameplay of Ranger, and the recommended gear. There will be timestamps for each part of this video so you can skip around to what you want to hear about. Between each part of the video, some things may be repeated, so keep that in mind. If there is anything I did not go over, or you have questions about, feel free to leave a comment. Ranger has a large variety of different perks and skills. It is important to know which each of these skills do in order to master the class. Nimble Hands makes your bow shoot 15% faster. From what I know, it works just like having 15% action speed. Quick Reload makes you gain 50% action speed while reloading, which means that you reload 50% faster. Sharpshooter adds a flat 15% headshot damage on top of your pre-existing headshot damage. All weapons have a headshot multiplier of 1.5 and Sharpshooter makes it 1.65 for bows. Ranged Weapon Mastery adds 5% physical power bonus while shooting your bow or crossbow. This means you do 5% more damage. Campfire Mastery makes you place a campfire 50% faster and it lasts 30% longer. Chase will leave a footstep trail that is shown as bright red footsteps on the ground that you can see from 4.5 meters away. It only detects recent footsteps, meaning they will time out if someone is standing still for a longer period of time or has not been there recently. I do not know the exact time this lasts, however 10 seconds seems pretty accurate. Along with this, the perk makes it so you hear sounds from twice as far away. However, personally I have not felt that much of a distance increase. Crossbow Mastery makes your crossbow gain 50% action speed while reloading, which means you reload 50% faster. It will also give you 5% physical damage bonus just like Ranged Weapons Mastery. Kinesthesia will make you move 10% faster while drawing the bowstring. Typically this is around 20 move speed since you go down to 200 move speed or less when shooting a bow. Spear Proficiency lets you equip and use a spear and you will gain 7 physical power when holding it. Most of the time 7 physical power equates to 7% physical damage bonus. Crippling Shot makes it so when you shoot someone in the legs, it will make them move 40% slower for 1 second. This stacks with bow's inherent hit slow. Trap Mastery makes you place traps down much faster. It gives a plus 100% regular interaction speed bonus when installing a trap. This makes it almost twice as fast. For now, this is all the perks Ranger has. Now I will move on to each Ranger skill. Backstep will make you quickly go back a short distance while on the ground or in the air. It has a cooldown of 10 seconds and some important things to note about it is you can still do actions like attacking and reloading while you are using backstep. It will not cancel any action while using it, which can make it useful for kiting and solos, especially if you are newer to the game. Field Ration will make you eat a small piece of bread or food that will recover 25 HP. It has a 24-second cooldown and a max of 3 field rations that you cannot get back. Field rations scale 100% with physical healing, so 1 physical healing will make you heal 1 more HP. Forceful Shot will make every shot knock someone back for 8 seconds and has a cooldown of 18 seconds. This skill also works against shields, making it very strong for solos and kiting. When you use multi-shot with a bow, you will charge 5 arrows horizontally next to each other at the same time. It has a cooldown of 22 seconds and can be also cancelled to get 5 arrows added to your quiver. Multi-shot will also fire perfectly in a straight line when you are aiming down. If you jump and look down while shooting, you will see this. All of the arrows will be on top of each other. Penetrating Shot will make your shots have 25% armor penetration and 50% headshot damage reduction for penetration for 8 seconds after activating it. It has an 18-second cooldown. It is important to note that this armor pen is multiplicative, not additive. This means that it will bypass 25% of a player's armor rating as opposed to 25% flat of their armor rating. The headshot penetration of this skill works against the innate headshot damage reduction that helmets have. It will bypass 50% of the headshot damage reduction someone has. Quickfire will give you 50% action speed for 8 seconds when using a bow. It has a 18-second cooldown. It is good to know that the action speed also affects things like weapon swapping and reload speed, so when reloading with Quickfire you will reload 50% faster. Quickshot will shoot multiple arrows quickly in a row. The amount of arrows depend on the bow. The longbow will only shoot 2 arrows with a bit longer of a delay between the two. Recurve bow will shoot 3 arrows with a shorter delay between the shots. The survival bow will shoot 4 arrows with the shortest delay between these arrows. This skill has a cooldown of 22% and is very good for burst DPS. It also scales with action speed, meaning there will be less of a delay between the arrows if you have more action speed. True Shot will make a projectile not affected by gravity or projectile drop. It applies to every projectile thrown or arrow shot in the 8 seconds after you activate it. It will also give you an 8% physical damage bonus increase, meaning you do more damage with those projectiles. It has a 18-second cooldown, and it should be noted that this skill applies to things like explosive bottles and oil lanterns. When making ranger kits, it is important to know the different scaling amounts for your important stats. When you're at 10 to 15 physical power, you are at negative physical power bonus, and you gain 2% physical power bonus per 1 physical power. Because of this, it is important to hit that 15 physical power mark on Ranger, since you start at only 10. After this, you get 1% physical power bonus per physical power. This goes from 15 physical power to 50. After 50 physical power, you get 0.5% physical power bonus for each physical power point. The soft caps for dexterity work a bit different. They are based off the sum of agility and dexterity. The equation for this sum is agility times 0.25 plus dexterity times 0.75. This means that dexterity affects the soft caps 3 times more than the agility does. When going from 13 to 25 sum, you gain 1% action speed per point. When going from 25 to 41 sum, you gain 1.5% action speed per point. When going from 41 to 50 sum, you gain 1% action speed per point. Lastly, when going from 50 to 100 sum, you gain 0.5% action speed per point. This curve is a bit more difficult to understand, but the main thing you need to know is if you get too much dexterity and agility, you will start getting much worse diminishing returns. However, with most kits, you should not need to worry about this. A ranger's build can change pretty harshly between each of the modes. For this reason, I will separate the builds into 2 different sections: solos and then duos/trios. I'm first starting with solos. In solos, the 2 must-use perks are Nimble Hands and Quick Reload. Some rangers don't like Quick Reload, however I swear by it. The next 2 perks are up to you. However, I typically take something like Chase and Crippling Shot. Sharpshooter is not a bad option, but it is much easier to dodge headshots in solos, and it will become borderline impossible to headshot a good player. However, most of the perks are viable for solos. The only perks I would never use are Trap Mastery and Campfire Mastery. When it comes to skills, there is some variability to them. Almost all of the skills are usable in solos. The only one I would not take is True Shot. The skills can vary for each bow, so here's the viable ones for each bow. For the survival bow, Quick Fire, Quick Shot, Forceful Shot, Backstep, and Field Rations are all viable. Personally, I would always take Quick Shot with the survival bow for the quick burst of 4 arrows. I also like using Quick Shot and Forceful Shot, or Quick Shot and Quick Fire. Forceful Shot synergizes very well with the survival bow because of its super high attack speed. For the recurve bow, Quick Fire, Quick Shot, Forceful Shot, Penetrating Shot, Multi-Shot, Backstep, and Field Rations are all viable. For recurve, I also always take Quick Shot for its quick burst of 3 arrows. Personally, I like using Quick Fire and Quick Shot with this bow in solos, but I have also used Forceful Shot and Quick Shot. For the longbow, Quick Fire, Quick Shot, Penetrating Shot, Multi-Shot, Backstep, and Field Ration are all viable. Longbow is not a great solos bow due to its high move speed penalty and low attack speed. However, with longbow, you always need to use Quick Fire. My preferred second perk would be penetrating shot, multi-shot, or quick shot. Quick shot is not as good on longbow, but still has strong burst potential. Multi-shot can be good up close if you know to use it right, and can also let you get a free reload. Penetrating shot is just as good against armored players always. It is not as good now because of the innate armor pen of every bow, but is still a good skill. When it comes to solos, there's a lot of different stats you can go for. However, here's my list of the best stats. The best stat in solos for me is move speed. Move speed is the #1 tool in solos, and even if you don't do a lot of damage, you want move speed to be able to survive. The second best stat in solos for me is true physical damage. True physical damage is still a super strong stat, especially for solos. Any sort of flat or additional damage is super good in this game, and that does not change for bows. True physical damage will also not be affected by stuff like physical power bonus, damage fall off, damage reduction, and headshot multiplier. The third best stat in solos for me is action speed or dexterity. Having higher action speed is super helpful on ranger, and will let you get much more damage out, reload faster, and just have more fun in the class. For your fourth stat to prio, it could either be health or physical power / physical damage bonus. Both are great stats, and it really depends on if you want to be more tanky or do more damage. Typically I go for doing more damage. Armor penetration is also a very nice stat to build. However, I was not sure where was best to put it in the ranking. I would recommend getting armor pen on at least helmet, since that is the cheapest. However, some other semi-cheap pieces are gloves, cloak, and pendant. Those 4 pieces can still get you 10 to 15 extra armor pen. Here is an example of the armor I prioritize in solos. For my helmet, I go for the Ranger Hood or Golden Shadow Mask. Golden Shadow Mask is the best Ranger helmet in the game because of its 0 move speed penalty, and its great stats of agility, strength, and dexterity. However, it could not be crafted for the first few weeks of wipe and can be expensive. The Ranger Hood is a good alternative because of its low move speed penalty and the main stat of Agi, which will give you good move speed. This helmet also tends to be pretty cheap. Best chestplate for Ranger is the Wanderer attire. However, this can be expensive and rare, so some good alternatives are the doublet or Adventurer tunic. You typically want dexterity or action speed rules on the Adventurer tunic. For my leggings, I go for cloth pants or loose trousers. Cloth pants are super good ranger pants, however, if you are lacking move speed or want more move speed, then loose trousers aren't a bad option. For gloves, you want to run riveted gloves. Leather gloves are also an option, but the will is kind of a dead stat. For a pendant, you almost always want a frost amulet that is blue or purple for the extra true physical damage. A necklace of peace or monkey pendant is not bad either. For rings, you want dex rings. However, strength rings, agi rings, and vigor rings can also all be good depending on your build. For a cloak, it's the same as rings. You mainly want a dex cloak, however, strength, agility, and vigor cloaks can all work. In duos or trios, the 2 must-use perks are Nimble Hands and Quick Reload. Some rangers don't like Quick Reload, but I swear by it. Personally, I also really like Sharpshoot in duos or trios, although it can still be easy to dodge headshots in duos or trios. There is more people, so it's harder to focus on dodging the ranger. For my 4th perk, I like Crippling Shot, Spear Mastery, or Ranged Weapons Mastery. Most of the perks are viable for duos and trios. The only 2 I would never use is Campfire Mastery and Trap Mastery. Just like solos, the skills you run in trios vary depending on which bow you run. For this reason, I will give the best skills for each bow. For survival bow, Quickfire, Quick Shot, Forceful Shot, and Field Rations are the most viable. Survival bow is not a great bow in duos and trios because of its lack of range and arrow speed. It can still be viable in duos and trios, but I've never used it in those modes. It is better in duos than it is in trios. For skills, I almost always take Quick Shot on the survival bow. I like to run Quickfire and Quick Shot, however Quick Shot and Forceful Shot is also good. For recurve bow, quick fire, quick shot, penetrating shot, multi-shot, and field rations are the most viable. For recurve, I also always take quick shot for its quick burst of free arrows. Personally, I like using quick fire and quick shot with this build in duos and trios and don't typically run anything other than that. For longbow, quick fire, quick shot, penetrating shot, multi-shot, and field ration are the most viable. With longbow, you always need to use quick fire. My preferred second perk would be penetrating shot, multi-shot, or quick shot. Quick shot is not as good on longbow, but can still give good burst potential. Multi-shot can be good up close if you know to use it right, and can also let you get a free reload. Penetrating shot is just good against armored players always. It is not as good now because of the innate armor pen of every bow, but it is still a good skill. For duos and trios, your stat priority is almost exactly the same. For duos and trios, there's more or less two main builds. You can either prioritize move speed more, or not worry about it as much. Both can work good, but if you have less move speed, it is better to be in a comp with a frontliner. Depending on the build, you would prioritize move speed second after true physical damage, or instead prioritize it fourth and just make sure you get above 300. The best stat for these modes is true physical damage. True physical damage is super strong stat. Any sort of flat additional damage is super good in this game, and that does not change for bows. True physical damage will also not get affected by stuff like physical power bonus, damage fall off, damage reduction, and headshot multiplier. The second best stat for these modes is dexterity and action speed. Having higher action speed is super helpful on Ranger and will let you get much more damage out, reload faster, and just have more fun playing the class. For your third stat to prioritize, it could either be health or physical damage / power bonus. Both are great stats, and it depends if you want to get more damage or be more tanky. I prefer doing more damage. Armor penetration is also a very nice stat to build, however, I was not sure where it was best to put this in the ranking. I would recommend getting armor pen on at least helmet since that is the cheapest. However, some other semi-cheap pieces are gloves, cloak, and pendant. These four pieces can still get you 10 to 15% armor pen. How much armor penetration you want to build also varies with your team comp too. For example, I normally run Ranger double Warlock, so I do not need as much armor penetration because my Warlocks do magic damage. The armor I wear in duos and trios normally looks like this. For the helmet, I wear the Gold Shadow Mask, Ranger Hood, or Spangle Helm. The Gold Shadow Mask is easily the best mask for either of the builds listed. However, if you don't have the money or can't craft them yet, I would use the Ranger Hood for a more move speed heavy build, or a Spangle Helm for a more DPS heavy build. For both of these builds, the best chest piece is the Wonder Attire. This piece can be expensive, so both the doublet and adventure tunic work. I would recommend action speed and dexterity rolls if you're going to use an adventure tunic. For leggings, I normally use cloth pants for either of these builds since you do not need as much move speed as you do in solos, and you especially don't need it for the less move speed heavy build. Because of this, cloth pants work good for both builds. However, if you're still having issues getting move speed, then you can use loose trousers. For boots, I normally use Lightfoot boots or adventurer boots. Either boot can work for each build, however, you typically need some good adventure boots to have them work for the more move speed heavy build. Lightfoots have such high base move speed that they will help to get your move speed up to where you want it for either build. For gloves, I almost only use Vivided gloves. Leather gloves can work, however the will is a dead stat on them. For a pendant, you almost only want to use a Frost Amulet, for the extra true physical damage it has as a base. However, a necklace, a piece, or a monkey pendant can also work. For rings, you normally want dexterity rings, however, you can use any agility ring, strength ring, or vigor ring, and it works fine. You can change these rings out depending on what you currently need in your build. For the cloak, you want the same as the rings, ideally dex, however you can use any agility, strength, or vigor cloak depending on build. There is a lot that goes into playing a ranger and can be very difficult sometimes. For this reason, I will give some tips for ranger and say how you normally want to play the class. Typically with ranger, you want to play relatively defensive. You can play aggressive, but you should always make sure you have space cleared out and you typically want traps to work with, especially in solos. A lot of the best ranger team comps rely around stalling and playing safer while the ranger gets tons of poke damage. They focus on making it very difficult to push. This can be seen with the comp I play, which is Ranger double Warlock. We play aggressive to find fights in PvP, however. In PvP we focus on kiting and stalling until a team starts running or dies. One thing you want to always prioritize on Ranger is keeping distance. Most of the times I have died on Ranger, especially in solos, it is because I got too greedy for hits or didn't keep my distance good enough. Sometimes I would go for a greedy reload or arrow hit and it will get you killed. You want to almost always focus on making distance rather than making damage. Of course, your playstyle can change a bit depending on if you're running multi-shot or backstep in solos. Another thing to note about Ranger is that a lot of the time trying to go for a headshot isn't worth it. This is also dependent on your game mode. In solos, you don't want to go for headshots when someone is chasing you unless you see their strafing is sloppy, or if say they are holding a shield and you have an angle. Headshots are very easy to dodge by doing stuff like crouching and looking down or up when the ranger shoots. For this reason, it is much safer and more effective to aim for the body. However, in duos and trios, it gets easier and more worth it to go for headshots because it is harder for all the players to be ready to dodge the ranger. This is because there's other teammates for them to worry about. This is the reason that I take sharpshooter in duos and trios, but not always in solos. Ranger can be a hard class to play when you're against good players. Due to the design of the game, strafing players can be very difficult to deal with. However, there are a few things you want to remember when fighting good players. First, you want to try to read their strafe. Some people will just strafe back and forth, so you want to try to predict where they will go. This takes a lot of practice and time. Some players will also try to jump to dodge range arrows. However, this is a pretty crucial mistake. Jumping makes it pretty obvious where you will be landing in your movement through the air. If you notice players are jumping against you, wait for them to jump and take that time to hit a much easier shot. Some players when strafing will try to wait for you to shoot and then strafe or crouch and look down. This is the best way to deal with a ranger. However, in most modes, especially trios, players may be impatient or not pay attention, which will lead to them just dodging the second they think you're going to shoot. To avoid this, you can hold your shots for a bit longer than normal, and typically catch them trying to strafe your arrow too early. However, if they do wait for you to shoot and react to the shot, it is pretty much just a guess on if they will strafe and how far. Traps can be your number one friend on Ranger, especially in solos. It is the main piece of utility you will have on Ranger, and can single-handedly win fights even if you are outgeared. Learning to play around your traps is a crucial point on Ranger. Putting your traps in harder to see spots and attempting to not make them obvious will be the difference between winning and losing some fights. Don't be afraid to make a rat play if you get you some juice. Ranger is a super high skill cap class, so don't feel bad if you're not instantly amazing or struggling when starting out. Adding on to this, a lot of Ranger and how good you are at it depends on how good your enemies are. If your enemies aren't that good at strafing or playing around a Ranger, it can feel very easy and OP. However, this will not always be the case. Ranger can synergize with a lot of classes in this game. However, Ranger synergizes with some more than others. Some classes it works best with currently are Warlock, Bard, Wizard, Rogue, and Druid. For Warlock, Hydra helps to provide a great method of stalling against a team, and Ranger can synergize really well, letting your Warlock stall and make space with Hydra while you pelt the team with arrows. Hydra can act as a frontline even if you don't have one on your team, since it lets you deal with players sitting close around corners or rogues. Warlock also does magic damage, which helps cover your weakness to physical damage reduction. Wizard can provide some support aspects to Ranger, like haste and ignite. This can help the ranger do more damage. Along with this, Wizard offers anti-heal with its Fire Mastery perk, which helps to deal with healers like Cleric. Wizard also helps to counter ranger's weakness to physical damage reduction. Spells like Light Orb can deal with rogues, which are a huge issue for rangers. Slow can also combo good with ranger, allowing them to get a free shot on a person pushing. Bird provides tons of support to a ranger with things like Rousing Rhythm, Electro, and War Song. This can let a ranger put out much higher DPS. It also can work as a frontline class, stopping teams from running at you. However, you want some damage before your Bard goes head to head with a Barber fighter. Shriek of Weakness will also reduce enemies' PDR, making the ranger do more damage. Rogue is another DPS class that can punish teams for trying to run at the ranger without being careful. Rogue Invis allows him to get great flanks and jumps on a player, which will make them always have to worry when fighting a ranger. This will make it easier on the ranger to hit shots. Along with this, Rogue is great at assassinating squishy classes like other range classes that might kill the ranger. However, this combo, especially in duos, is very skill based and can be hard to make work when starting out. Druid's overtime healing synergizes great with DPS comps, which Ranger is a main part of. It lets you keep pressure up without having to heal when you take poke damage. Along with this, Druid can stall very well with Treant and Thorn Barrier, similar to Warlock. This lets you counter players running you down and gives you more time to get damage in. Druid also can act as a sort of pseudo frontliner, which can go hand to hand with low HP tanks. Druid's Panther form, similar to Rogue, can help deal with squishies, however it is very gear dependent. Overall, no class is outright bad to pair with Ranger. Even Fighter and Barb can work good with Ranger, especially in duos. However, with the current trios meta, a frontliner plus a Ranger doesn't work that great. Some of these combos are also very skill based and can be difficult classes to play. So for that reason, Fighter and Barb are much simpler and can work very good at low to mid level. Overall, all of this info is subject to change with future patches. It is likely in the future we will see some very big changes to Ranger when stuff like enchanted arrows come out. I will try to update the description of this video or leave a pinned comment when this happens. I will give updated info and correct some things that may be wrong. However, if lots of stuff change, I will hopefully make another Ranger guide video and provide the link to it.